and welcome. You are watching Business Today Television. This is Market Today. I'm Sakshi Batra, a show where we'll help you understand the trading strategies, the setup, as well as all the market related important news coverage that you need to mark for the day today. We'll be joined by top market experts to guide you through both the fundamentals and technicals in the market as well. But let's quickly recap what happened in the markets. Yesterday, the benchmark Nifty index witnessed a volatile session on the final day of the monthly expiry session, but definitely ended off the lows, and that was a bit positive. Now, after facing selling pressure, throughout the first half of the trading session, it was the latter half, and especially the last half an hour of trade, where you actually saw bulk of buying coming in into the markets and a recovery coming into the markets as well. In fact, that helped the Nifty to end above 24,800 mark too. The broader markets continued their outperformance, compared with the benchmark indices. We also did see that the Nifty managed to register third consecutive positive series in May. Index ended about 2% higher for the month, similar to what April also happened as well. Now, as we move forward to today and the start of the new series, of the June series as well, what will be important to see? Q4 GDP data will be coming in the evening. Final batch of Q4 earnings is what is being awaited. Also, the reinstatement of the Trump tariffs by an appeals court is going to be important to be seen. Institutional activity is going to be important. Forex data, mixed global cues that we have right now will also be guiding our Indian equity markets. Now, remember, overnight in the US, all the three major indices closed higher, buoyed by gains in the tech stocks like Nvidia. Though the gains were capped by uncertainty around the court rulings. Remember that the S&P 500 climbed about 0.4% up, Nasdaq added about 0.4%, and we also did see that the Dow Jones also rose by about 0.2% in trade as well. Remember, in the US, the Federal Appeals Court temporarily has reinstated the sweeping President Donald Trump's tariffs on Thursday, right a day after the U.S. Trade Court ruled that Trump tariffs were illegal and that Trump had exceeded his authority in imposing these duties and ordered an immediate block on them. So one day they were blocked, and the other day they were reinstated yet again. Is something that we will be watching out for. Now, the Asia Pacific markets, they again slipped on Friday as the concerns over a slowing U.S. economy, persistent inflation fears, legal uncertainty around, Trump tariffs is something that continues to weigh on the sentiments. Nikkei was down by 1.5%. Broader topics was down by 0.8%. South Korea, Kospi slipped by about 0.2%, and ASX 200 edged down by 0.2% in trade. Gift Nifty is also indicating absolutely a muted start at this point in time. So let's see how things shape up. Foreign institutional investors, they again bought in net equities in the Indian markets of 884 odd crore rupees. Domestic institutional investors, they bought stocks worth about 4,286 odd crores as well. Now, of course, we will also be seeing in June series. Remember, historically shows that this month has generally been kind to Nifty. So we are hoping that the positive news coverage and, of course, the positive cues will continue to at the Nifty inch higher on in the June series. So many numbers that you need to really look at. Bajaj Auto came out with the numbers after the market hours. So the two-wheeler major reported a 10.4% year-on-year decline in the consolidated net profit at 1,802 odd crore rupees for the fourth quarter, whereas its revenue from operations grew by about 8 odd percent, reaching 12,204 odd crores. Ola Electric Mobility also reported its numbers, a loss that has widened to 870 odd crores in Q4 from 416 crores in the same quarter last year. The revenue from operations declined by 59.5% to 611 odd crore rupees in Q4 again. So there could be a muted start or a negative start for Ola Electric today. Samvardhan Motherson, the firm's net profit fell by about 23% year-on-year to 1,050 odd crore rupees. Revenue from operations, however, increased to 29,317 crores from 27,666 crores in the corresponding period of the last year. Bonus announcement will also be in focus. And of course, the kind of con call management statements that are coming in are positive at this point in time as well. Suzlon Energy will be important to be seen. The company has reported a surge of multifold, kind of net profit number to 1180 crores. This is in comparison to 254 odd crore rupees that was recorded in the same period in the previous fiscal. Revenues from operations jumped 73% year on year to 3,773 crores. We'll also look at Nuvama Wealth. That's another one. The company reported 41% growth in its net profit to 255 crores, and the total income also rose to 1125 crore rupees from 929 crore rupees in the corresponding quarter of FY24. Wockhardt Pharmaceuticals, the drug firm, has reported a net loss of 45 crores as against a net loss of 177 crores. So it's reduced the losses there. Sobha Realty will be important to be seen. The real estate company has reported a profit that's increased by 481% to 40.8 crores in Q4 against a profit of 7 crores in the same quarter last year. Revenues also have jumped by 62% to 1240 odd crore rupees. So those are some of the key numbers that I'm keenly looking at in trade today. Let's now welcome our guest with us, Mr. Mayuresh Joshi, Head of Equity Research, William O'Neill India, is now with us on the program. Welcome to you, Mayuresh, and good to have you with us. It's Friday again, and help us understand how are you looking at the fresh market setup. Let's start off with the global cues because, one day the tariffs are blocked and the other day it's again, released at the same point in time. So it's a lot of uncertainty, a crazy world right there.
Morning, Sakshi. Oh, absolutely it is. And again, I think that entire tariff confusion continues. Obviously, one federal judge has again said that a part of those tariffs probably might be unconstitutional or unlawful as well. And therefore, I think what really comes out at the end is going to be really interesting. Does the Trump administration find other ways to probably levy tariffs and bypass these measures that have gone through court procedures right now? I think only time will tell. And therefore, I think the only two risk factors that the market have, as I'm time and again repeating, is as we head towards the July 9 deadline, initially decided by the Trump administration, what actually comes through with this. And the second aspect is the Japanese yields as well. What you're probably seeing in terms of the Japanese debt to GDP is 250%, which is almost twice of what the US is at this juncture. And therefore, I think the Japanese 30-year yields have exceeded the Chinese 30-year yields for almost 6 months now. So there is that inherent risk that global markets also feel in terms of the unwinding of the yen carry trade. And if that happens, I think at some point of time over the next few months, the markets might feel some element of jitteriness. So I think these are the two global macros to probably watch out for, Sakshi, in my opinion, over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. On the tariff front, again, I just wanted to go back for our viewers to really see that what are the options that Goldman Sachs has also indicated that the Trump government right now has. They actually believe that, in case the further hearing continues, they could continue to go to until Supreme Court really finally decides as to what happens, because this was a lower court and then Trump government has gone to a higher court. So this could continue to go back and forth. In the meanwhile, what's also being indicated from the Trump administration is that they are willing to extend the baseline tariff of 10% that continues even despite this 90-day pause that we are looking at. So the reciprocal tariffs have not been placed, but the baseline of 10% tariffs is still on with the nations across the world that US has. That could be increased to 15%. And for a period of 150 days. That's something that we are given to understand. So let's see how that one also really plays out in shape. But of course, a lot of more clarity will have to be needed at the same time. Globally, of course, we're seeing the GDP data indicating to further slow down a little bit in the US. We're going to be looking at our own GDP data tonight as well. In the US, again, unemployment data is again screaming job losses at this point in time. How are you looking at the economic scenario right now, Mayuresh? There were fears of recession in the US, months back. How is the situation right now?
I think the scenario still probably remains the same, Sakshi, because I think the baseline case is that there might be a mild recession in the US. And it's all dependent and obviously, I think, divergent in terms of how the tariff moves will happen. Obviously, I think the other point of concern is the US debt numbers as well. As we just mentioned, the Japanese debt number is actually double of that of the US. And US is going through a huge phase in terms of their outgoes, in terms of interest payments on an annualized basis, which has crossed $1 trillion. And therefore, I think what we are hearing and reading in terms of tax cuts, if they are expected to happen, Does that lead to more fiscal debt onto the US government's balance sheet? Does that become inflationary in nature to a certain extent? And if tariffs go through to a certain extent and degree, in whatever form and proportion, does that cringe global growth, including US growth to a large extent, and bring down the global GDP estimates as well? For all reciprocating nations who probably also cater to some element of reciprocating tariffs if that has to happen. And therefore, I think that's the fear that the markets are at this juncture. Obviously, India, from a macro perspective, relatively better placed off, but we will feel the heat as well. And therefore, my take has been consistent that volatility will continue. We are obviously better off. From a macro perspective, we might be better off from a micro perspective with the expectation of corporate earnings expected to improve. But we still might feel the heat because of global issues.
Absolutely. So that is something that we'll keep an eye out on. Just a minute to go before we do see the pre-open trade coming into our fold. But at the same time, earnings, absolutely the last leg, it will be curtains down soon. What exactly has probably stood out for you in the entire earnings? We were reading some reports of Ace Equity that said that, largely top line and bottom line has grown by about 6% for Nifty companies this time around. So most of it has been in line, not too bad as was being expected before the Q4 earnings began. How would you summarize the Q4 earnings, Mahesh?
No, largely in line, Sakshi. Obviously, in terms of the overall earnings growth, it
Hmm.
has been a consistent show for sectors that were expected to perform well. So BFSI has done well, which was expected to do so. You are expected to see a few elements in terms of the broader markets, including a few healthcare stocks, including pharma companies, selectively do well, which was in line with expectations. A few hospital stocks, a few oil-based themes like agrochemicals actually performed well. A few outliers within the broader markets as well. Generally, I think the result season has been in line with estimates. Obviously, I think where we started off at the beginning of the year, Sakshi, in terms of expectations of
Yeah.
reasonable and strong earnings growth because of the multitude of factors that has not taken place. But the hope this time around is with tax cuts, with better monsoons, maybe the second half has a better earnings show that we can probably expect from India. But broadly, Q4 in line with estimates that the street was expecting.
Okay, in line with the estimates is what we have seen as far as Q4 is concerned. Volatile start to the Nifty in the pre-open trade, 24,800 still with us, 20 points lower. We did see that brief green as well. So let's see how things really shape up on that front. Let's also pull up some of the key stocks to see how they are moving in trade. Let's look at Bajaj Auto, the big number that we are looking at today after the earnings, and we'll continue our conversation also with Mayuresh on that front. 1.4% higher, 9,000 is the level at which you're seeing Bajaj Auto post the earnings have been reported. Now we do see after the earnings, brokerage houses have kept again higher targets for Bajaj Auto, from Goldman Sachs 9,300 to CLSA 10,150 to Bernstein 11,000. Now most of them are also hoping at the outperform rating continued there. What stood out for you in Bajaj Auto's earnings, and where do you see the stock go from here?
I think this set of numbers, and again, I think what the street was pegging off and what the numbers have been delivered have probably been in line. I think the only two, three factors that one really needs to watch out for is with competition intensity happening on the electrical mobility platforms. How does Bajaj Auto cope with that? And that's generally for the entire industry as a whole. Second, I think from an export market perspective, whether it's for two-wheelers or three-wheelers, how do these markets shape up, both in terms of volumes and expectations in terms of pricing as well. And third, I think in terms of new key launches, what is the key expectations that we probably believe can take place along with the financial reconstruction that they're probably doing through and are expected to go through in terms of the KTM operations as well. So probably in line with estimates. The tailwinds probably in terms of what goes through in terms of rural consumption.
Yeah.
Does that have a significant pickup in terms of volumes? I think that's the strong belief as well.
Absolutely. Now, within the two-wheelers, I'm going to be also putting in Ola Electric that has seen its, losses widen at 870 odd crore rupees. How would you really look at Ola Electric? The troubles continue, no signs of improvement in the financials as well. There are also some brokerage houses targets that are now down to even 30 odd levels. I mean, look at it from the way the IPO and the listing happened after that 76 odd level, how it sprung up, and after that, it's been only downward hill. What would you advise on Ola Electric?
Better place, Sakshi. I think I'm always of the belief that any company which is not able to exhibit bottom line growth and where there is a lot of inconsistencies in terms of when that will come through, I think you can't be having a futuristic, best, optimistic outlook that at some point of time it will happen. Let it happen, and then we'll take a call. Anyway, it's plagued by a lot of regulatory compliance related issues in the past as well. And there are better leadership stocks. The belief always is, Sakshi, in the auto industry is that you need to have a very solid network, distribution, dealer, after sales, replacement market, the pedigree in terms of quality and in terms of expectations of other qualitative aspects need to be fulfilled. So I think the leadership stocks have it all. I would not like to bet on an Ola. I think much better stories to tell.
Absolutely. Let's also, since we're talking about autos, let's also get auto ancillaries out of the way. We saw Samvardhan Motherson come out with the numbers. What stood out here? It's been one of the key staples when we talk about, auto ancillaries, one of the stocks that everybody really believes in that, okay, one has to look at Samvardhan as probably a stock that must be in the portfolios. What exactly would you say right now? 154 currently?
No, it's decent stock, decent story, but I'll still wait
Mm.
and watch. I think let's see
Mm.
how the global cues play out. Let's see how the ancillary market shapes up. There is
Yeah.
competition intensity, no two ways about it. Are all
Mm.
auto ancillary players able to pass through the entire pricing related issues? Is still to be watched out for, and therefore it's a great story, but not something that I would
Yeah.
like to bet on at this chance.
Okay, got that. So let's move on from the auto space to something maybe that we can discuss in the renewable energy space. I think SJVN, Suzlon, they all came out with the numbers. Suzlon, there's a multifold increase in the profitability. But there's been a large amount of caution amidst this stock for those who have actually seen Suzlon's performance for decades now, and we have seen what's gone on in the past, and that past impressions definitely continue despite you continuing to see some improvement in the financials. There's a sharp uptick of almost 10% now in the pre-open at 71.5. So after having a long consolidation, it's bounced back from 45 odd levels to now 71 odd levels. Pretty smart. How would you look at Suzlon?
The momentum might continue, Sakshi. And again, I think if
Yeah,
you probably just keep pegging in terms of Suzlon and Inox, I think there are very
yeah,
few players apart from these two who are actually left in the fray. A large part of the universe has gone through a lot of periodicity of pain right from 2019, but with regulations changing, tariff changing, the interstate transmittability grid changing in terms of pricing as well. I think things
correct.
have turned for the better. The balance sheet construct has happened much faster, much cleaner, and therefore the momentum
Mm.
might actually continue for players like a Suzlon and Inox.
Okay, got that. Let's also talk defense. Mazagon Dock came out with the numbers 51% year on year decline in Q4 net profit at 325 crores. Revenues stood at about 3,174 crores, gaining by just about 2 odd percent. Sequential profit also dropped by about 60 odd percent. Now, we've been seeing all these defense names fly away yet again over the last 2 3 weeks, or Mazagon has moved up pretty much smartly. Now, after the results, there is a 7% decline. How should one really read? Because, the order flows news comes in and, these stocks continue to fly away. But at the same time, we need to check. There was news about how, GRSE, how it's unable to complete some of the orders there. Then the clarification came in. And then the question mark comes in. Like you also pointed out, I think last week, that, order execution is the key at this point in time. So how would you really look at Mazagon Dock and all of these stocks that are flying away?
So for all defense, I think the tailwind continues. Order books are fine, margins are fine, and I've always mentioned you're absolutely right. I think execution is going to be the key risk.
Mm,
But with new regulations coming through, I think what the
mm,
government has probably now adhered to and mandated post operations into will be timelines, and therefore timelines are going to be extremely critical for this line of business. There is also that opportunity that Europe might face in terms of export orders. And therefore, I think India might have certain tailwinds come through. But execution is going to be the key for all these stocks under consideration. And again, I pointed out, I think valuations are through the roof as we speak for most stocks within the sectors. Investors might just need to wait and watch. When you get those dips and sharp corrections, maybe that is the time when you probably go into defense.
Okay, fair point. When we look at the markets yet again, they have settled in the pre-open trade, and we'll come back to the conversation. The Nifty just mildly lower at 24,812 is what we are looking at, 21 points of a cut, even though the Nifty Bank is indicative of an opening in the positive side, although flat with a positive bias there, 55,615. Let's also look at the broader indices. I think small caps and mid caps could again be opening higher, do better at least in the opening for they have been actually doing much better over the last few trading sessions compared to the frontline indices. India wix, I think that's something that we will look at as well. Remember yesterday there was a sharp 9% drop. Let's see whether that dip continues, because that will be important to track as to whether India wix will come into a comfortable zone soon, and what does that really mean for the markets at large. Autos could be starting on a back foot, FMCG as well. IT also could be starting on a back foot. Pharma also slightly lower in trade, but what's going to be up? Real estate, metals. We're also looking at slight gains on financial services, private banks today. So it could be a mixed start yet again for the markets today. Maybe if I have to ask you, the two or three sectors that you are betting big on right now, what would those be?
So BFSI, Sakshi, I think selectively,
Yeah,
because I think that the growth will continue. Credit growth has to come back very, very strongly. It has been in single high digits or single teens, and therefore that
correct.
growth should start coming through. So leadership stocks within this space should continue doing well. As I said, healthcare stock hospitals selectively can do well because there is expectation of consistency in terms of earnings. So select pharma stocks, like I've discussed on your shows earlier, select hospital stocks, as I've discussed on your show earlier as well. Agrochemical as a theme should continue doing well. And therefore, those stocks which have done reasonably well, I think farm gate prices holding up, input costs lower, is that pace of the market doing well. Within consumption as a basket, our take is alcohol beverages should continue doing well. Premiumization as a story expected to continue. Select FMCG players should do well with the expectations of urban and rural consumption coming back. And what we've got on our watch list are select footwear players, apparel players, which if they start showing signs of recovery, can actually start doing well as we head into the second half and as festivities begin.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's also focus on some other pockets. I wanted to also discuss with you these commodities, metals, oil and gas, something that, again is catching our attention of late with the kind of moves that we are seeing. What is your view on them? What's the story here, and how is it going to build up? Earlier, we were believing there were just two dichotomic views about metals, whether they're going to be going up or is it going to be again volatile. Is there a probably certainty of how these particular sectors will move up now?
I think it's more a function of global demand supply, Sanchi, very earnestly.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think how China probably comes out with slump is going to be extremely critical for metal stocks. Because
Mm.
ultimately, I think that they are the drivers in terms of how LME prices are determined. You've obviously seen a slew of good numbers, no two ways about it. Neville Lignite, SAIL had a decent set of numbers, JSW Steel, JSPL.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the domestic volume story continues, but input costs ultimately are something to be watched out for as well. And ultimately, LME pricing, because ultimately, even if you have decent volumes, the LME prices is something that is decided on international bosses, and that ultimately gets decided by global demand supply. Yeah. So I think how global demand supply recovers is going to be a key factor for most metal.
Okay, fair point. Let me also bring in Kunal V. Parar, Vice President of Technical Research Choice Equity Broking, who's now joining in on the program. Kunal, warm welcome. Good morning to you. 2 minutes to go before we start off with the markets. So what's your take today? First day of the June series. What are you watching out for?
Well, good morning to you and Mayur's bhai. Well, right now Nifty is trading at 24,810, and I'm not seeing any clear direction in the market right now because since last many days Nifty has been trading between the range of 24,600 to 25,000. Until and unless we get the breakout, we are not seeing any kind of clear direction. So, Nifty may play its game between this range only. Nothing to worry about this counter as of now, 24,600. on a closing basis would become a good support, while on a upper side 25,000 will act as a strong resistance.
Okay, and any good key two stocks that you could name for the viewers to know?
Yeah, two stocks are there which looks very attractive to me. First is Oil India. Right now trading at 447. One can get into the stock with the strict stop loss of 430. Target wise, 460 would be the first target, and afterwards we may see a good upside movement up to the level of 485. So second target would be the 485. Now second stock is RBL Bank. We have seen a very good upside momentum in the RBL Bank, and further northward march would be then the counter. Right now trading at 216.8. One can get into the stock with strict stop loss of 203, which is its previous recent bottom. Target wise, first target comes at 228, and if stock breaks this level, then further upside could be there up to the level of 245. So two stocks are there: RBL Bank and Oil India from my side.
Okay, got that. Oil India and RBL Bank will keep an eye out on. Kunal, how are the rollovers for the June series from May?
Well, if you talk about rollover wise, and on an average, 63 to 65% rollovers are there across the index and counters. Now this is like normal rollover if we look
Okay.
after previous rollover as well. So it doesn't indicate any particular direction for the market. Yeah, it's like a subdued rollover that we have seen during yesterday's monthly series.
Got that. Average rollovers there. Markets have started to tick higher, 24,837. In fact, it's very volatile yet again. You're seeing the market swing between highs and lows right around that flat line. So we'll look at the Nifty Bank to see whether that space is also pulling up, the mid and the small caps as well. Remember, these are the pockets that have actually rather been lending some support to the markets. Let's look at some of these sectors, mid and small caps, as well as the banks, which are opening higher, 0.06% up at 55,582 odd levels. Let's also look at how the advanced decline ratio is also shaping up in trade at this point in time, seems to be still on the positive side. Let's also look at the key sectors that are moving in trade. I think the mid caps are up by 0.3%, small caps are up by 0.2% at this point in time as well. Pulling up some of the other stocks, let's look at the heavyweights, IT stocks, Infosys. Let's pull up HCL Tech, Wipro, TCS, all of these names at this point in time. The IT stocks are starting on a back foot, 0.7% lower in trade. Let's also look at the other heavyweight banking stories. Let's look at ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, and let's look at even Kotak and Axis at this point in time. The banking stocks, although just flat with the positive bias, are starting on a back foot yet again. So Nifty and Sensex flat. The Nifty mid cap index about 0.4% up now, and the Nifty bank also just about 1/10% higher in trade. IT stocks now half odd percent lower, so the heavyweight space is now starting on a cautionary note, is what we can point out at this point. Let's also look at the advances now, 1119 to 459 declines on the Nifty advances that we have. Among other sectors, PSU banks slightly up in trade. You have capital goods, oil and gas that's opening higher a bit. Metals also slightly up, but IT, autos, defense also starting on a slightly lower footing. Top laggards on the Nifty would have Infosys, Bajaj Auto after the earnings down by 1.2%. Tech Mahindra also slightly down in trade. HCL Tech, Bharti Airtel, IndusInd Bank that continues to reel under some pressure again in trade today. So that's how some of the top laggards are shaping up at this point in time. Whereas on the gaining side, you have Geo Financial Services up by 0.7%, Coal India, Apollo Hospitals. These are among the top movers. Also GC and Grasim that are opening on the higher side at this point in time. Kunal, very quickly, how would you see the opening?
Well, if you look at the opening, Nifty has opened at 24,780, and down by 50 points. Now, this is like a normal opening that we have been witnessing. Nothing to worry about this opening. But obviously, we have already discussed about the level. I think, no major move will be there. And today is the last day of the weekend. So, no, I'm not suggesting to go for a long position in the Nifty at this level. But yes, if any fall is there up to the level of 24,000 650, then it would become a good buying opportunity with strict stop loss of 24,580 on a closing basis. While upper side 25,000 will act as a strong resistance. So, my strategy is like wait and watch as of now. Let's need to fall further from this level.
Okay. Look at the charts of Suzlon, Kunal. Meanwhile, we'll just take one view again on Suzlon from Mayuresh. 71, 72 odd levels. Is it dicey to enter at this point in time, Mayuresh?
No, I think we'll wait and watch because I think the move is now exaggerated because of the results. And as
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
momentum might continue because I think there are very few players left in this fray, and there are a lot of government incentives. There are interstate incentives. There is expectations in terms of tariffs which have gone higher. A lot of the pain in terms of balance sheet as far as leverage is concerned is largely behind them. And there were a lot of positives and tailwinds for this sector and for these two companies in particular. But this is a results reaction. Let's wait for it to cool down before you end.
Absolutely. On results reaction, we see Ola Electric down by almost 6 odd percent today. We're also looking at Bajaj Auto down by 2%, Mazicon Dock down by about 7 odd percent after the earnings that have come in. Among the other big moves that we are seeing at this point in time, you can actually look at Equinox India, that's up 5 odd percent in trade. Then you could also look at EIL, that's opening by 4%. Remember, yesterday the earnings came in and the stock has been moving up after that. SBI flat with a positive buy. Lumax Auto is about 11.5% up in trade. On the downside, you have Landmark, Ola Electric, Shalby, that's down in trade about 4-5%. Vectors also down by about 4-5 odd percent. But I think it's BSE that's taking it away now. Strong 5% move on BSE right now. Let's focus on that one. 100 rupees higher in trade. How would you look at BSE, Mahesh, after the bonus split has come in? We've actually been seeing the stock inch up higher. Optically, the stock appears more affordable at this point in time for a lot of our viewers who were hesitant to enter BSE at 7,000 plus.
Yes, optically, Sakshi.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think the whole argument is that there are only going to be two exchanges, right? BSE, NSE.
Yeah.
The kind of penetration that will happen in terms of demat holders, in terms of the annuity incomes, are still going to compound at a decent pace. And therefore, I think the valuation argument might just be kept on the sidelines as far as the exchanges are concerned. So anybody holding on to BSE should continue holding.
Okay, got that. Okay, Kunal, coming to you for a whole host of stocks on the charts that you can now help us with. Start off with BSE since we're just on it, and then we'll go on to the other stocks.
Well, witnessing a very good upside momentum in the BSE right now trading at 20 near to 2600 up by the way stock has been trading. I think further upside would be there. Stock is up by 5%. If you talk about further upside momentum, then 2700 and afterwards 2780 would be there. Now, I am not suggesting to go for fresh long at present level because risk reward is not that much of favorable for creating any fresh position. But yes, if you have already created a position in this counter, then hold this counter. Further upside would be there in the counter.
Okay, got that. Now, what about Suzlon? What would you do here after that 12-13% of a move today?
Well, Suzlon result is very good, and that's the only reason we have been witnessing very good upside momentum. The counter is up by 10%. Stock has already given a breakout of its strong resistance, which was placed at 62 level, now trading at 72 level. I'm not suggesting to go for any long position at present level because again, risk reward is not that much of favorable. But yes, if you have this stock in your portfolio, then hold this stock. Further upside would be there up to the level of 76, and afterwards, even it may march towards the level of 80.
Okay, got that. How about Bajaj Auto and Ola Electric? What would you do there on the auto space today?
Well, Bajaj also trading at 8,705 down by 2%. Now, if it fall further up to the level of 8,522 or 8,550, now that
Hmm.
become a good buying opportunity. Not at present level, so let Bajaj Auto fall further up to the level of 8,520. It would become good buying opportunity, and afterwards we may see a good upside momentum up to the level of 9,000. And if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there even up to the level of 9,200. So as of now, wait and watch for Bajaj Auto. And if you talk about Ola Electric, right now trading at 50 level, no doubt it looks very weak in terms of technical in terms of technical chart. But even we have seen a very negative review as well for the Bajaj Ola electric scooter as well. So fundamentally, even it looks very weak. So totally avoid for this counter.
Okay, fair point. Mayuresh, coming back to you, one of the key spaces that you're clearly watching is BFSI. That has been a consistent with you. Help us now understand at this stage in time, what should investors do? Those who have missed the recovery rally so far, many stocks within the large private banks have already inched towards 52-week highs and fresh highs. So, what should be the approach now? Should one again go back with an ICICI, HDFC, or a Kotak Axis? Or should one also look at PSU bank that have started to show us some kind of a tick on the higher side now?
So selective. I think leadership stocks will do well, like some
Okay.
ICICI Bank going forward.
Mm,
But we've
mm,
got banks like a Karur Vysya as an example in our portfolio, both domestically and globally as well, where our belief
mm.
is that these mid-cap private banks might actually fare a tad bit better. They've got that flexibility in terms of catering to selective markets that they're catering to, and therefore advances growth should be decent, deposit growth should be decent. The balance sheet construct in terms of asset quality pressure, NIMs, the provisioning that they're carrying, and the capital adequacy to grow the balance sheet might be relatively stronger as well. Karur is something that we probably believe with ratings, rankings, institution holding, and all the parameters that we see that can continue doing well. Within PSUs, again, if you leave aside SBI, which is obviously the behemoth in terms of the banking system as a whole, our own sense is that a bank like Bank of Baroda can actually fare well. They've got the right ingredients in place, like a private sector, like their private sector counterparts. And the expectations is that with credit deposit ratios expected to remain relatively stronger, capital adequacy, which is relatively stronger as well compared to the rest of the PSU pack, the lower tier ones, and the provisioning that they are carrying. Any write backs and recoveries, specifically from a PSU construct, should directly aid their bottom line growth quite significantly. So, yeah, I think a mix of both private and public can actually do it.
Okay. We'll continue our conversation with Mayuresh because we have to let him go in the next 5 minutes, and we'll come back to Kunal after 5 minutes, and we'll straight away go on to several stocks that he has to advise. First I have to also ask you on the primary market as well. So much of action unfolding in the last 1 week, 10 days, Mayuresh. Have you looked at any IPO? Did you apply for any? Or probably advise your clients where exactly should one be really focusing?
No, so as a house, we don't cover IPOs, but the general tracking that I'm going on a personal level, I think the appetite is there at this
Mm.
juncture. Obviously, the Leela IPO, which is coming through, the appetite was
Yeah,
absolutely there.
yeah.
The AG's IPO, I think the valuations are through the roof. I think it's a great business, but you can't have valuations through the roof and give nothing for the retail investor at the end, which just not just makes sense. Again, I think the appetite generally from a sentimental perspective, from a liquidity perspective, is still low. So unless an IPO comes through, which has all ingredients in place, which is a strong sectoral tailwind, which has got strong earnings pedigree, expectations to have strong earnings trajectory going forward as well, and where valuations are decent and something is kept on the table, I think those IPOs will receive a lot of good response. Unfortunately, I think all the IPOs that have come through recently, including the one which recently got listed, Bellrise Industries, I think the business is great. But I think the sentimental impact that the market is going through,
Absolutely.
the sluggishness it is going through, might just dampen the IPO and the primary investments.
Okay. You talked about Leela. I wanted to discuss the hospitality space with you. A lot of investors are right now confused. The erstwhile favorites we do know have been IHCL, Lemon Tree, Taj GVK, all of these kind of hotels. But now, with Leela coming in, there's going to be more but at the same time, one has to keep an eye out on the valuations part as well. How are you going to be choosing between IHCL or Leela at this point in time if you have to choose?
No, price to perfection. So even if you look at the FY30 numbers that Indian Hotels has given out, I think on an EV/EBITDA basis, it's price to
Mm,
perfection. So if
mm.
you have a best case scenario over and above what they're estimating, maybe there is a re-rating case. But
Yeah.
again, I think the story remains very, very simple, Sakshi. I think the unorganized market is large. There is huge scope for growth as far as the entire sector is concerned. There is also alternatives that are coming up. You've seen a lot of villas, specifically in the premium segment, which can be given on rentals. There has been the entire urban disruption which is going through. But the fact remains that the room supply is lesser. The expectations in terms of organized market gaining share is higher, and the expectations in terms of tourists, both inbound as well as global tourists coming in with lesser supply, might mean that demand, occupancy rates, pricing might be relatively stronger as we speak for the sector. So valuations might remain elevated. The question mark is whether they can beat the estimates that they probably got in mind over the
Hmm.
next 3 to 4 years. But anybody holding a qualitative stock like an Indian Hotels or even its offshoot like a Taj GBK, a Lemon Tree might actually continue.
Absolutely. Well, Mayuresh, always a pleasure to have you with us and seek such wonderful insights from you for our viewers. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely, Sakshi. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, Kunal. And when we in Mumbai next time, please let me know. We'll catch
Absolutely, we'll do an Unchala soon.
you.
Let's look at Kunal also are now looking at the first 15 minutes of the candle nearly formed. How would you really look at the markets? What's really, I think its momentum is picking up now. We are at 24,850. But again, this has been a dicey zone for the markets to probably cross on a serious note. How would you really see the markets at this point?
Well, definitely means right now market is in a dicey mode, and if we look after the option chain analysis as well, means throughout the strike price in OTM side in both the option call option and the put option, we have been witnessing some short bit up only. So even based on this option chain, we have means we are not getting any sense for any clear direction. So this is the perfect time for those who want to initiate short trader or short stranger. And if you talk about the maximum OI size, then as for the max OI 24,600 and 25,000 make there's a tight range for the market. And yeah, one thing is that which looks very attractive as of now. Since last 2 to 3 weeks, Nifty has been trading in this range only, and once this range will get break, I think we may witness a very good upside momentum up to the even up to the level of 26,000. So one has to wait to get the to get this range breakout. Now, one thing looks very attractive at present level. If you look after the many large cap counters like Bajaj Auto, Hero MotoCorp, Reliance, L&T and all,
Yeah.
this looks very attractive at present level because if Nifty breaks this range, then we may see a very good spot in all these large cap counters.
Yeah, absolutely. Kunal, let's also focus on some of the stocks that are buzzing smartly in the Nifty 500 basket. You have Suzlon, of course, that we've discussed 12% higher. Engineers India is another 8% up after yesterday's move. MMTC has been consistently moving for the last 3 days or so, 6% higher. BSC, we've discussed 5% up. Our power is also up by about nearly 5%. We have also names like Electra Green Tech improving from yesterday's losses, now 3% higher. Zentech is up. So many stocks that are buzzing in the space at this point in time. Sobha is also up by nearly 5 odd percent. So various sectors to really discuss with Kunal. Kunal, first let's discuss the PSU stocks particularly. What's really happening there? Names like ITI, MMTC, Hoodco, all of these names are again coming back in play. But do you see this as a consistent theme?
Well, if you talk about these counters, ITI, Hudco, ITI, my MMDC, I think Hudco looks very attractive present level trading at 241, and it's near to breakout. If stock breaks, if stock sustain above 240, then further upside would be there up to the level of 265 and even more above up to the level of 300 level. So compared to MMTC, compared to ITI, I think Hudco looks very attractive. One can get into the stock at present level with the strict stop loss of 235 for trading perspective, and for short-term perspective, one can keep isolated at 225. Again, target wise, 265 would be our first target, and if stock breaks this level, 300 is our ultimate target. So among these counter, I think Hudco do some wonder for our viewers.
Okay, got that. Let's take another one. Then that is the real estate space for you. Shobha is flying up. We are also seeing after the earnings, many stocks did react positively to the earnings. Real estate has been coming back for the last couple of months. Finally, are you seeing a sustained move here also? Top choices here?
Well, yes, Shobha is doing very good. Not only this, in the recent days, we have been seeing very good upside momentum in all the realty counters. If we talk about DLF, Godrej, Prop, Lodha, Raymond, and all. And right now, Shobha is up by 5%. But I think one should keep an eye on Oberoi Realty because in Shobha, I'm not suggesting to go for fresh buy because risk reward is not that much of favorable. But yes, Oberoi Realty looks very attractive. It's up by 1.22%, and right now trading at 1753 level. It has already given a breakout of its resistance which was placed at 1700 and right now trading above it level. So one can get into the stock at present level with strict stop loss of 1690. If we talk about target wise, then fair momentum would be there in the counter up to the level of 1800, and afterwards even it may march towards the level of 1890. So these stocks looks very attractive even in terms of stable momentum, confident momentum, and even in terms of risk reward as well.
Okay, so that's the real estate story also. That's definitely pulling up well at this point in time. Viewers, keep an eye out on that. Let's look at the defense names yet again. Why I'm discussing this with you again today, there is some kind of profit booking across the board, and we're also looking at Mazatlan Dock react sharply lower after the earnings today. A lot of people have again missed this smart move of the last 2 months on the defense names because I think there has been an impression of the past. The way defense stocks had rallied the previous time and after that consolidated, sharply corrected for a fairly long bit of time. This rally, they were, investors were not very confident of whether they should be actually looking at that. But now you're seeing a BL at fresh highs, HAL flying away, all the shipbuilders, GRSE, again, multiple highs are being seen in one single week, etc. How would you advise on these stocks at this point in time?
Well, if you talk about all this stock, BEL is there, BDL, HL, I think one should keep an eye on this counter. These counters have been trading in a range bound momentum since last 1 week, so means one has to wait for fresh breakout. And if it take place, then we may see a good upside momentum of somewhere around 7 to 8%. Right now, one should keep an eye on these counters only. I'm not suggesting to go for fresh buy at present level, but yes, if these stocks are there in anyone's portfolio, then hold this stock. I think after a fresh breakout, good upside momentum would be there. And one to two counters are there, which looks very attractive at present level. I think BEML right now, no doubt it is marginally down, but looks very attractive on a daily chart. It is trading at 4,245, and the way stock has been trading, I think one should get into the stock with strict stop loss of 4,150, and the upper side first target comes at 4,400, and afterwards it even may march toward the level of 45,300, 4,530. So BML looks very attractive for creating fresh long position.
Fresh long positions can be created on BML. We'll keep an eye out on that for sure. Kunal, let's look at some of the other aspects. Okay, Zomato versus Swiggy is again that we are focusing on. Both are up today, 1.5% higher for Swiggy today. Eternal is also moving up after days of losses. I think some recovery signs were seen yesterday, and it continues today also, 0.4% higher. How are you looking at the charts of both Zomato versus Swiggy?
Well, both start looks very attractive right now. Swiggy is trading at 329. I think it has already created its bottom. Downside strong support comes at 300, and for trading perspective, strong support comes at 380. And right now, Swiggy is trading at 329. One should get into the stock at present level with a strict stop loss of 318. First target that we may say it's 338, and if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there up to the level of 351. So Swiggy looks very attractive. Not only this, even Zomato looks very attractive right now, trading at 229. Downside, it has a strong support of 220. So one can keep strict stop loss at 220. Right now, stock is trading at 229. If you talk about upper side target, and first target comes at 236, which is just previous top, and if stock breaks this level, then 247 would be there. So both stocks looks very attractive for trading perspective.
Okay, let's look at some fresh highs and 52-week highs. BSE is at a fresh high, viewers, 2580, 5.4% higher. We discussed this stock. BDL from the defense space is up 3.4% at 2040, again at a fresh high. Bharti Hexacom is up by 3.4%, 52-week high for this one. ABB Power, Welspun Corp, Solar Industries, they're all at 52-week highs as well. So the defense, some of the moves that continue. You also have Bharti Hexacom. In fact, let's discuss this one also, Kunal. Bharti Airtel versus Bharti Hexacom. Where do you see the momentum continuing right now?
Well, Bharti Airtel and Bharti Hexacom, I think both stock looks very attractive. Bharti Airtel
Okay.
trading 1857 and Bharti Hexacom trading at 1847. And if we compare both the stock, then Bharti Hexacom looks very attractive. It recently has got a breakout of its 1788 resistance, now trading at 1847. One should get into the stock at present level because breakout is there and even volume is generating. So positive rhythm is there in the counter. One should get into the stock at present level with strict stop loss of 1780. If we talk about target wise, then first target comes at 1900, and if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there up to the level of 1990. So Bharti Hexagon, Bharti Airtel, in both the stocks, I think Bharti Hexagon looks very attractive.
Bharti Hexacom looks very attractive at this point in time. We'll definitely keep an eye out on that. Let's also look at the stocks which are most active by volume. Today, of course, Suzlon is the one with 12.2% moves, very, very strong volume. And it was already expected. We made a video also yesterday after the earnings came in that this will be the stock to watch out for tomorrow as the first stock that we will watch out. And that's how it has panned out. Let's look at even, I think, Vodafone, R Power, MMTC, Vola Electric, Engineers India. These are all the stocks that are most active by volume at this point in time. We're also looking at Gujarat Pipavav, by the way. AG's Logistics also that's up and about. These are the kind of stocks that are holding up, ports, logistics players that are also holding up in trade at this point. Any stocks within 52-week lows? None of them at this point in time, which actually indicates that the market breadth is pretty positive at this point in time as well. Anything else, Kunal, that picks your attention that I forgot to ask you?
Well, if you talk about all the stock which you have just mentioned, I think Aegis Logistics, R Power, both stocks looks very attractive on daily chart. Right now, Aegis Logistics is trading at 817. One can get into the stock with strict stop loss of 780. And if you talk about target wise, then first target comes at 1845. And if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there up to the level of 900. It means we may see good upside momentum for more than 9 to 10% of return in Aegis Logistics. Not only this, even our power looks very attractive right now, trading at 53.85. Downside strong support comes at 49 level. One can get into the stock at present level. And if we talk about target wise, and first target comes at 58, and if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there up to the level of 64. So we may see some good upside momentum for more than 18 to 19% of return from this counter. So both these stocks looks very attractive.
Both these stocks look very attractive at this point in time. Okay, let's look at reading up some data within the markets. Let's look at the mid caps and the small caps at this point. We have been seeing the mid and small caps outperform in the recent days when compared to the benchmark indices. Some stocks that are pulling up here, apart from the ones that we've already discussed. So Suzlon, BSE, BDL, Bharti Hexa, we've discussed. We look at Muthoot Finance, 1.9% higher. Escorts Kubota, Paytm is also moving up. Motilal Oswal Financial Services, Page Industries, Premier Energies, that's also moving up in trade. In fact, we haven't discussed the capital markets theme today beyond BSE. Beyond BSE, Kunal, if you have to choose any stock within the capital markets, what would those be? Would it be large NBFCs, wealth management firms, or would it be the broking firms?
Well, if you talk about broking stocks after BSE, I think CDSL looks very attractive right now, trading at 1538. Stock has recently made a breakout of its previous resistance, which was placed at 1487. Right now trading above it, so further upside would be there. And if you talk about MCX, then sideways momentum is there in MCX, so I'm not seeing any particular direction in the MCX. But yes, CDSL may do some wonder for our viewers. Trading at 1538, one can get into the stock at present level. We will keep SL at 1480, 1480 will be our SL. And if we talk about target wise, then further target comes at 1585, and if stock breaks this level, then further upside would be there up to the level of 1660. So somewhere around 8 to 9% of return that we can expect from this counter. CDSL looks very attractive among other counters.
Okay, got that. So we'll keep an eye out on that. We're nearing the first half an hour of the candle getting formed at this point. Even though the Nifty continues to be absolutely flat at this point in time, with just like a negative bias, I would say. Nifty Bank flat with a positive bias at this point in time. So lackluster on these large indices. Nifty 500 also flat with a negative bias. Mid caps 2/10% higher. Small caps 1/10% higher. India VIX down by 1.5%, 16.18. After that sharp downtake, and today also the weakness continuing on India VIX. Kunal, how do you see the volatility index moving from here? Is it going to get into a comfortable zone of below 15 odd levels?
Well, yes, right now trading at 16.15 level, and we have been continuously witnessing some downside momentum from the level of 22. Right now trading at 16.10. I think yes, some further downside would be there up to the level of 14 to 13. And if India VIX approaches then level, then Nifty may break its all-time high of 2600, 26,000 level. So this is like a good part in terms of uncertainty in terms of India VIX. So, perfect time for creating long-term portfolio. If Nifty or India VIX fall, it's a 15 and 14 level.
Okay, got that. And towards the end, Kunal, help us understand if somebody has to form strategies for this entire June series, any key stocks that you could advise there, and a strategy for the Nifty as well.
Well, for Nifty strategy, I think one should go for creating short position in terms of short traders on stranger, because as per the option chain and as per the open interest data, I think I am not seeing any particular direction in any either way. So Nifty may play its game between the range of 24,600 to 25,000. So 400 points of momentum is there. One can go for creating short traders on stranger. And if you talk about stock wise, then we have been witnessing very good upside momentum, particularly in the auto counters. And yes, good rollover is there, so one should keep an eye on the Hero MotoCorp, the way stock has been trading on a daily chart. Right now stock is trading at 4,372. One can get into the stock at present level with strict stop loss of 4,200. And if you talk about target wise, the way stock is trading on its daily chart, I think further upside would be there up to the level of somewhere around 4,510. And if stock break this level 4,510, then further upside would be there up to the level of 4,800. So again, 8 to 9% of return that we can expect from this counter in this June series. Hero MotoCorp looks very attractive.
Okay, fair point. We'll continue to look at the stock as well as the strategy that you recommended. Kunal, thanks for being with us in the morning edition of Market Today, as well as hope you have a fantastic weekend ahead. We'll see you soon next week again to see what exactly are you seeing some more value for our investors to keep an eye out. Thank you so much for being with us. All right, viewers, we start wrapping up the morning market edition. We are at 24,815. That's 0.08% lower. So again, it's been a very choppy start for the first half an hour of trade. Let's see how it pans out. But remember, like how yesterday it happened, most part of the day was extremely volatile and largely down. It was only towards the latter half, towards the end, that we did see some pickup happening in trade. Although the relief trends were higher yesterday rather than today, where the cues globally are also on a slightly muted to a weaker note as well. So we'll see how this really pans out in trade. Stock selective momentum is huge at this point in time. So I think that's where our attention should be. We'll continue to guide you through with top market experts joining in throughout the course of the day on various shows to help you understand how you should be forming your strategies in the current markets. And of course, if you have any questions on the stocks in your portfolio or on your watch list, you have some money you want to invest in, where exactly should you be doing that? Where exactly should you be booking out profits from? All of those questions can be answered on daily calls at 12 noon. I'll be back with two experts joining in. Stay tuned.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff